friends. Welcome to episode 31 of the Way Too Indiecast. Today, we have our biggest guest on the Indiecast yet. Actor-director Joel Edgerton joins the show later on to talk about his new film, The Gift, a stalker suspense thriller directed by him and starring himself, Jason Bateman and Rebecca Hall. Also later on the show, I'll be sharing my story about my personal interaction with Joel and the incredibly cool/creepy marketing campaign behind that movie, which actually made my wife none too happy. Stick around till the second half of the show for all of that. But before that, inspired by The Gift, we're going to be talking about actors turned directors. Mr. Edgerton happens to be a successful actor turned director, at least so far as I'm concerned. And but there have been many actors who've jumped behind the camera in the past, and we're going to talk about the good ones, the bad ones, and even the ones who turned out to be better behind the camera than they were in front of it. But there's a lot to get to today, so let's get this rolling. I'm your host, Bernard Boo, coming to you from the Bay Area in California, and joining us for the first half of the show is Way Too Indie head honcho Dustin D-City Jancic. What's up, boss?
Hey, man, not much. Glad to be back again.
Glad to have you. And also joining us is a newcomer to the show, Eli Hayes, a contributor to Way Too Indie, coming to us from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
How's it going?
It's going very well, Eli, and it's good to hear your voice for the first time. We're pretty much e-meeting right now.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Yeah, so we'll see how this goes. I think it's going to go great. But without further delay, we're going to start off the show, as always, with our indie picks of the week. So, Eli, why don't we start off with you? What have you got for us today?
I'm going to go with Patrick Brice's Creep, which is available on Netflix right now, so it's pretty easily accessible. And the reason why I'm choosing this movie is because it really impressed me in a couple of different ways. First of all, Patrick Brice, he directed this and The Overnight he released them at least pretty much within a year, the same year or so. And that's pretty impressive because they're very different films. But what really impressed me especially about Creep is the fact that it's basically just two guys making this film on their own. It's POV style, which can be, an absolute disaster with certain films, but it really worked here. You have the director behind the camera, and then you have Mark Duplass, who's pretty much the main focus of the film. And it's about a guy, a videographer, who's low on money, and he's basically, he receives an ad offering $1,000 for him to come and film someone else for a day, and that's pretty much the setup of the movie, and it escalates pretty quickly into some serious madness. So that would be my recommendation. I think it's worth checking out, and as I said before, it's available on Netflix.
Great, really great. I'm definitely going to check that out. Dustin, let's see if you can top Eli.
Well, speaking of Mark Duplass, he was actually an executive producer on my pick.
He's everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yeah, him and his brother Jay have just been exploding over the last, 5 years or so, just doing all sorts of movies and TV and doing producing as he did on this film. My indie pick is the upcoming indie film from director Hannah Fidel, who made a name for herself a couple years ago with her previous film, A Teacher. Her new film is called 6 Years, and it's about a 20-something couple who've been dating for 6 years now, but are experiencing some serious relationship difficulties and complicating the situation even more. One of them gets an enticing job offer that would require relocating to a different state. So he basically has to decide between staying with his girlfriend or a new future/job somewhere else. And it's a really emotional film. It does a really great job of showing the subtlety of how two people who've been together for a very long time interact with each other. The little insider jokes kind of, but the way that people interact. And that I think is kind of difficult sometimes to show in a film, in a 90-minute film. So it did a really good job with that. And the two leads are very, very excellent in the film. So if you've seen her last film, you'll find a lot of similarities here. And if you liked A Teacher, you'll probably enjoy 6 Years as well. So definitely check it out. My review of 6 Years will be posted on Way Too Indie the week of its iTunes and digital release, which is coming up here August 18th. And then less than a month later, it'll be available on Netflix on September 8th. So definitely give that a watch.
Looking forward to that
awesome.
too. Yeah, it sounds really awesome. My indie pick of the week For my indie pick, I've chosen the latest project from Aardman Animation. They're the guys who brought us the popular stop-motion animated Wallace and Gromit series, which I think everybody loves. It's called Shaun the Sheep Movie, and it's actually a spin-off of Wallace and Gromit. It's directed and written by Richard Starzark and Mark Burton, and is based on a BBC series based on Shaun the Sheep, who is in the movie tired of doing the same old chores every day on the farm, so he rallies his sheep friends and forms a plan to let themselves off the hook for once and take a day off from the farm. But things get out of hand pretty quickly, as you could expect, and hijinks ensue as the sheep head out of the farm and into the big city to fix a mess that they've made. I've always loved the look of Wallace and Gromit. And stop motion animation in general. I think it's so charming, and you can really appreciate the handiwork that went into making those plasticine figures. It just is so captivating to look at on screen. And Shaun the Sheep movie is very much appealing in the same way as the Walt and Gromit movies, and it's also essentially a silent movie because there's virtually no intelligible dialogue. It's all visual storytelling, which I think everyone by now knows that I'm a big fan of. And, the silent film aspect of it endeared me even further. So it's a fun, adorable, well-crafted movie for the whole family, and it's out in theaters this week. So you guys should all go check it out. Those are our indie picks of the week. Guys, go watch those. Let us know how you feel about them. We'll watch each other's. Get together and I don't know.
That sounds really weird.
Yeah, toast some marshmallows.
Three very different films, it sounds like.
Yeah. That'd be a really weird triple feature.
Yeah.
That would be. And I just looked at its IMDb page for your pick, and I didn't see Mark Duplass anywhere credited, so...
Yeah, I don't know how
but
good
it does
it's
sound
gonna
very
be.
good, other than that. He could have done some voice work or something. I don't know. Why not? He's not busy or anything doing things.
All right, guys, those were our indie picks of the week. And before we move on with the show, we have to mention our beautiful sponsor, Mubi. They're a curated online cinema that brings its members a hand-picked selection of the best independent, international, and classic films. Every day, Mubi's curators introduce a new title, and you have 30 days to watch it. That means there are always 30 wonderful films to enjoy, all for $4.99 a month. It's so cheap. Plus, when you use their mobile apps, you can download films to watch offline. That's great for travel, and it's great for me because I commute to work all the time on the train. So Mubi's your passport to the world of cinema, and it's available all over the world in over 200 countries. Now, I did want to highlight this week that playing on Mubi is the first film from Ben Wheatley, who is a filmmaker that I really enjoy. The film is called Down Terrace, and I actually haven't seen it, but I wanted to highlight Mr. Wheatley because I loved his other films, A Field in England and Sightseers, which are incredibly strange and wacky and psychedelic movies that are so out there and out of this world that even if you don't end up liking them, you're going to want to talk about them afterwards with other people who have seen them, and even people who haven't. I'm sure you're going to want to recommend this one to people just to see how they react. Dustin, Eli, you guys have seen these movies, correct?
Yes, Field in England I also have to highly recommend. It's almost like and this is going to sound strange, it's almost like a cross between Gaspar Noé and Andrei Tarkovsky, if that makes any sense. Yeah, it's real strange.
And I've seen his other one, Sightseers, and I think it's excellent. Very bonkers, very crazy, lots of fun.
Yeah, and that's what's great about Mubi, because since we enjoy those movies now, they're giving us the opportunity to check out where it all began with Down Terrace. So I'm going to check that out on Mubi. I love Mubi, and you guys, Way Too Indiecast listeners, you can try Mubi for free for a month. Just go to Mubi.com. That's MUBI.com/Way2Indie to redeem your free month now. And please, guys, go support Mubi. They're a great service. It'll help us out. It'll help them out, and you will for sure enjoy these movies for free for a month. So thank you, Mubi, for helping us out and sponsoring us. And now moving on, we are going to be talking about actors turned directors. And this is, of course, inspired by Joel Edgerton, who has been an actor in tons of movies, although none of them are super, super high profile as far as his roles are concerned. He's been in big movies, but always kind of in smaller roles. I think his first movie, The Gift, which we'll get to later, was a very successful turn for him. on the other side of the camera. And this has been going on since the beginning of movie making. Actors who wanted to make their own movies and get behind the camera and be in the director's chair. And the results have been varying across the board. We've seen great ones, we've seen bad ones, and we're going to talk about some of the ones we feel are notable today. Let's start with Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. Dustin.
All right. Well, I'd say the first one I'd like to bring up is Ben Affleck. I'm sure you guys maybe have had it on or you guys were thinking about him and his name when we had this topic. I actually think I prefer him behind the camera rather than in front of it, kind of like what Bernard had said. His first film, Gone Baby Gone, is very underrated. I don't think it got the praise, certainly of his last film, Argo, which ended up winning like 3 Oscars and Best Picture a few years ago, back in 2012. But his directorial efforts have been a lot better than some of the roles he had as an actor, I think, especially in the early 2000s. He was on a role of really bad films like Daredevil and Paycheck and Surviving Christmas and stuff like that, like just some bad roles. So, I think Ben Affleck, I think he's a great director that started as an actor, and I hope he continues to do that versus picking these acting roles.
Gone Baby Gone is really one of my favorite American films, I think.
It's so good. Yeah. I really love Gone Baby Gone.
And it's weird because I always feel like I have to champion it, only because like a lot of people just haven't seen it. So I'm always like, I feel like I'm always telling people, check out this film, and you'd be surprised, especially when it's probably gets brought up when people start dogging on Ben Affleck. I'm like, you should check out his film though. I mean, his Gone Baby Gone is very good. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed it too, because I really think it's kind of underrated almost.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, people don't talk about it enough. But I actually do enjoy Ben Affleck as an actor, although I do think he's better as a director. I mostly enjoy him on the screen.
He's good in Chasing Amy.
Yeah, Chasing Amy's just, that's a classic from like my teenage days. Like me and all my friends just love Chasing Amy. But I did want to mention one actor turned director who is very close to my heart, Vittorio De Sica. He's just one of my favorite directors of all time. An Italian actor turned director who started out acting in the theater and on screen for a few years before he started directing some of like my favorite movies ever, like Umberto D and Bicycle Thieves. Those two movies are just ridiculously good. But Vittorio De Sica was actually, aside from being, one of the foundations of neorealist Italian cinema, he's also a great actor. I mean, he was great in The Earrings of Madame De, which he's so, I think, he's just really handsome in that movie. If you watch that movie, he's just so dashing, and he looks great on screen, but I think he's even more extraordinary as a director. Bicycle Thieves is just incredible. I watch it at least every few months. Just because I love it so much. Yeah, I love it so much, and I watch it periodically.
I actually just recently watched it for the first time.
Oh, what'd you think?
I loved it. I adored it. I thought, it was, and I heard it was really, really good film from a lot of people, and so I had kind of high expectations going in, and it exceeded them and kind of blew me away. Actually,
it's so emotional.
Oh,
I'm a
it's
sucker
so
for
good.
any like parent-child, It's really
That and it reminded me of sort of a little bit of like the 400 Blows, a little bit. I don't know. They're both Criterion films, and I'm kind of hoping Criterion releases The Bicycle Thieves on Blu-ray, because right now I think it's only available as a DVD.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
This is news to me though. I never even knew De Sica was an actor, so thank you.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know that either.
Yeah, he was a great actor actually. He has a great screen presence, and I agree. Like Bicycle Thieves is one of my favorite movies ever, and is actually, I think it's Woody Allen's favorite movie. So yeah, he always mentions it as his inspiration, his favorite movie. But Eli, let's get to you. I'm sure you've got some great stuff.
You know what? I'm going to go with one that just popped into my head because I think that it sort of relates to The Gift, even though I haven't seen The Gift yet. But it does have to do with a stalker, and it's sort of one of the people you might think of when you really think who's an actor turned director, and I'm Clint Eastwood. He started as an actor, and then he went on to direct Play Misty for me, which, I don't think it's Eastwood's best film, but I actually had a really good time with it. It's a lot of fun. It has a great psychological performance in it from the woman who plays the stalker. And, I could see that, being sort of influential for, other films that deal with stalkers or people coming from the past and reemerging into people's lives, like I know The Gift deals with. And I'm really excited to see The Gift and see if there are any parallels between those two films.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Clint Eastwood's directorial debut or his films that he's directed, but I think it's just there's no doubt that he's a good director. I don't think they resonate with me so well. I think there's just some things that I have issues with. He's very dramatic. He adds a lot of drama, I think, and it's really easy to sort of see that, when he's really trying to make a point to certain things. But I mean, there's no doubt that he's a successful actor turned director, no doubt.
I was really not a fan of American Sniper, to say the least.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that one either.
I liked it. I liked American Sniper, but I don't know. I think Eastwood was always. I think he was a very talented director. Of course, he has made some great movies as a director, but he never really captured me or my heart at all in any of his movies. I never felt an attachment to him as an auteur or anything.
I think my favorite of his is probably Mystic River.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Yeah.
Hell yeah, it's a great movie. I wanted to mention one that I really don't enjoy director. And that's Angelina Jolie.
Oh, I had her on my list too.
Me too.
Yeah, she deserves to be there. She deserves to be
That's a bad one.
That's a bad one, yeah. I think she's a great actress, actually. I think we're going to remember her more fondly years from now than we do right now. I don't think we appreciate her as much as an actor right now, but I think later on, she's done some great work as an actor, and we'll see that later.
Speaking of Clint, yeah, she was great in Changeling.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. She's really wonderful, I think. But her two films that she has directed, or two major films she's directed, In the Land of Blood and Honey and Unbroken. I want to focus on Unbroken because I think that might be one of the worst movies I've seen in the past few years. I really that's going to stand out. I've seen bad movies. I've seen worse movies actually, but this one stands out because of the fashion of terribleness that it brought. It really brought the suck. And
it really did.
It really brought the suck.
Check out his review on Way Too Indie. It's pretty good.
Yeah, please check that out. And there are just moments in that movie where it looks like a fake movie in a comedy, you know what I mean? Where there's a comedy movie and you see clips from a fake drama that the character's acting in, and it's almost trying to mimic or parody terrible Hollywood cash grab Oscar,
Oh man.
I just remember that scene, and you're right, it totally just stands out as just being an awful movie. There's so many awful moments in the film, but one that really stuck out to me, and I was watching with my wife, and she said the same thing to me. When they're in the beginning of the film, when he's leaving, he's going on a train, and his brother, he's screaming to his brother for the last time, and I'm gonna miss you, and there's and his brother says some sort of inspirational, very philosophical response, you'll always be really good if you keep your head up. I don't know, just something you would, felt like he was just reading the line. It was not natural at all. And it was just are you kidding? It really did feel like it was a joke, kind of.
Totally.
I'll make sure not to see that movie. I haven't seen it. I'll make sure not to.
Yeah, and the image that they use for the marketing of the main character holding up that steel girder.
Yeah, it looks like a cross, kind of.
That scene is so laughable. I couldn't not laugh while I watched that scene.
And have either of you guys read the book? Because I'm curious to see how it would compare.
I bet the book's good, actually.
I've heard the book is good. I haven't read it myself, but I have heard that it's been good. So. Yeah, the material isn't bad. The story is actually quite incredible, but
and the Coens adapted it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, wow. I believe so. But even the effects weren't all that great. There was really not a whole lot of good in that movie. Really, there's another one that I wasn't a big fan of, and you guys might disagree. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he had a directorial debut a year ago or 2 years ago with Don John with Scarlett Johansson. I wasn't a big fan of that one either. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on Joseph as a director?
I mean, I thought it was okay. Tell. Yeah.
It was kind of just, I guess, forgettable would be the word. I mean, I thought it was well edited. I like the editing in the film, but tonally, it didn't really know how to maintain consistency. It sort of turned into a different film, I feel halfway through. and I was watching two different films. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
That's true. Yeah, no, you're right. It does kind of feel disjointed, I think. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a terrible movie, but like you said, it's pretty like forgettable. It doesn't sit well. You don't remember it, for the good or the bad. But
I'll mention one more, and this may be an unpopular opinion because it got absolutely panned, but I'm actually a huge fan of Ryan Gosling's debut, Lost River.
Really?
Although I will say I'm biased because I pretty much love anything Benoit Debut shoots. He's very inspiring to me as a cinematographer. So I mean, I love that film. I was sucked into it, mesmerized by the visuals, and it's not very strong on a level of narrative, but I liked it for. The visuals and the atmosphere, really.
I haven't seen that one. That one was at Cannes last year, right?
Yes, last year. Yep.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I do want to check it out. You're right. The reviews haven't necessarily been very glowing towards it, but it's like interesting. Like I like those kind of weird experimental visual films, so I kind of want to check it out. But I do have my reservations with it.
It's basically what you would expect if Nicholas Winding Refn and Terrence Malick co-directed a film.
Wow.
Interesting. How I would put it, yeah.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mention another one that I really enjoyed, an actor turned director, and that is Robert De Niro. His 1993 film, A Bronx Tale, I think, is another very strong,
really
and underrated directorial debut. And I don't think that one gets talked about nearly enough either.
Yeah, and I guess he's a pretty good actor,
Yeah.
He's all right.
He also did Good Shepherd, too, which I haven't seen. I don't know if you guys saw that one.
I haven't either.
But, he hasn't directed a whole lot of films. But, he's an amazing actor who's actually kind of done a lot of not so great work, not so great roles, I don't think, as of recent. But, I mean, his history is very extensive, obviously, but yeah, definitely check out A Bronx Tale if you haven't. It's a really good film.
I back that statement, and I'd like to bring in a name from the indie world, I guess. I'm pretty sure that's safe to say. Miss Sarah Polley, the Canadian actress / director. I mean, she's been in a lot of indie movies like Splice, which she was great in, and The Sweet Hereafter, and she was even in like Dawn of the Dead. She's always great in these kind of understated roles. Great on screen, but she's also directed some awesome movies as well, like Take This Waltz, Away From Her, and my favorite, Stories We Tell.
Yeah.
Was that last year or 2 years ago?
I think that was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Oh God, Stories We Tell is so good. It's so good.
And Away From Me just made me cry. Like I cried like a small infant at the end of that movie.
Yeah, great. Terrific at on both sides of the camera, Sarah Polley, and one of our favorites in the indie community. I love her.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I actually got to meet her too. Like I interviewed her for Stories We Tell, but it was actually kind of awkward. Like
what?
I was like her last interview after like 8 hours of interviews. So she was not happy, and I could tell. And but she was so cute. She's so little. Like I'm like a small guy, but she was even tinier than me.
Really?
Yeah. She was really small. So I just thought she was cute, and but very, very annoyed by me. So I still love her.
Maybe not by you, but just in general, she was.
Yeah,
annoyed.
Hopefully.
I have one other one that sort of jumped out at me, and it's not indie at all, but Ron Howard. He grew up as sort of a child actor, in the Andy Griffith Show, and then later in Happy Days. But he's done some pretty good movies. He did Splash, Cocoon, and Apollo 13. I really like Ron, and A Beautiful Mind. That was Ron Howard, right?
Yes.
I believe so. Yeah. So I think Ron Howard's a good example of a childhood actor who later turned to be a director.
I really like Cocoon. I can't really explain why. I don't think it's just really fascinating. It's an interesting movie.
Yeah,
I really quite like it. Yeah. I'm excited for In the Heart of the Sea.
Is that his new one that's coming out?
With Hemsworth, yeah. I think that it'll be out sometime later this year. Another actress turned director that I really enjoy is Amy Seimetz, and I started seeing her in indie films like You're Next and Upstream Color, both of which I'm a fan of. And her debut, speaking of Terrence Malick, as I mentioned him before, is sort of a Badlands-inspired couple on the run sort of film called Sun Don't Shine. And I don't want to say too much about it because it's another one that's sort of loose on narrative, so it's best to go into sort of blind. But it's really worth checking out, and it's a small film, so it deserves as much attention as it can get.
I really like that movie.
Mm-hmm. And I haven't actually checked that out. It's kind of been on my list to check out because I've heard only really good things about the film.
It's really nicely shot. And speaking of The Gift, which has Jason Bateman in it, he's the last one I wanted to mention. And he's only, I think, directed Bad Words so far. But I mean, if you want to see, it's a pretty generic comedy. I mean, it's not particularly great, but it's kind of just your typical goofy comedy. But
yeah.
I mean, I guess it's worth checking out if you want to see, another actor turned director. If you're a Jason Bateman fan, I've been a big fan of his ever since Arrested Development. So I had Bad Words, right when it came out, and it met my expectations. It didn't exceed them really, but it's worth checking out, I think.
I think you said it well. I think if you're a fan of his, you should definitely check it out. But otherwise, you wouldn't maybe go out of your way to see it because it is pretty generic, but it's not bad.
If you guys are a fan of Jason Bateman, you got to check out The Gift. He does some surprising things in that movie. He's funny in that movie, but he has some really great work. I don't want to say too much about it. We'll talk more about Jason Bateman later with Mr. Edgerton. But great stuff over there. I did want to mention Jon Favreau as actor and director.
Yeah.
He was always hopping around, kind of in smaller roles on the indie scene in the '90s, like in Swingers and stuff, which he also wrote. He later on directed like some really great movies, or at least a couple. I don't know if he made a lot, but he directed Elf, which I enjoy. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies, actually.
Classic.
I still find it funny.
Yeah.
It's one of Will Ferrell's most funny roles. And
it'll always be funny.
It's great. I could watch that every year. I do watch
that. That and Bad Santa are the two I go to a lot.
Oh, thank you, Eli. Bad Santa, fucking Bad Santa is incredible. It might be my favorite Christmas movie. That one's even funnier than Elf, actually, to me. But and he also, goddamn, he kicked off this whole, Marvel renaissance with Iron Man, which is still one of the best movies they've made. It is a great movie. It still holds up as one of their best if you go back and watch it. But Jon Favreau's great. Richard Ayoade, he's a great actor turned director.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Submarine, I think it was amazing.
Submarine's amazing, and The Double is great.
Yeah.
Double?
Yeah.
I didn't know who you were talking about at first because I didn't know how to pronounce his name, but now I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy from IT Crowd.
Yeah. Speaking of Submarine, there is one of the actors in Submarine, actually, Paddy Considine. He started as an actor and went on. I think he still only directed Tyrannosaur, but that movie broke my heart. And I have to warn you, if you're going to delve into Tyrannosaur, really be cautious going into that one because it's really, really dark and disturbing, but it's well acted, it's well directed, and I have to recommend it. I appreciate it a lot as a film, yeah.
Nice. We only scratched the surface here. There's so many examples of actors turned directors. Please let us know what you thought of our picks and which picks we were stupid enough to not mention. I'm sure there are a lot of obvious ones that we neglected.
Cough, Orson Welles.
Yeah, there we go. Marlon Brando.
Had to get that one in there.
Yeah. All right, guys, after a short clip, we're going to be back, and I'm going to be speaking with Joel Edgerton about his directorial debut, The Gift.
Hey, excuse me. Hi. I'm sorry to bother you. I think I know you.
Yeah? I'm sorry. Can't place you.
Is your name Simon? Simon Cowell?
Yeah, Simon. Hi.
It's
know
you.
each other.
Oh. We went to school together.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Which one? Fairmont
Park.
Really?
Yeah.
Same grade? What year did you graduate? Hey, honey. Excuse me 1 second.
Okay, sure.
We'll rush. This is my wife, Robin. This is, I didn't get your name, sorry.
Gordon Mosley.
Hi, Gordon. Robin.
Gordo?
Hey.
Wow, buddy. I did not recognize you. Gordon Mosley. Oh, my gosh, honey. Gordo and I went to school together I don't know, what?
Really?
80 years ago.
Almost.
In Joel Edgerton's The Gift, Jason Bateman and Rebecca Hall play a married couple, Simon and Robin, whose lives start to fall apart when an old high school friend of Simon's named Gordo played by Edgerton, begins to infiltrate their lives in a creepy way, trespassing on their property while they're away to leave them presents, and showing up at their doorstep unexpectedly. Creepy neighbor shit. Except he's not their neighbor. When things start to get tense between Simon and Gordo, Robin begins to uncover a secret from their past that unhinges everything she knows about her husband. I don't want to give away too much more than that, but I will say it's a pulse-pounding psychological thriller that's emotionally and thematically rich, as well as a lot of wicked fun. I urge everybody to go out and see it with your friends, see it with your family. It's coming out in August, which is kind of surprising for a film like this, although I will say, if you've seen the trailers, this movie is not what you expect it to be. It is, I'll just say that. There are a lot of surprises in store for you if you go check out The Gift, and there were a lot of surprises that hit me like a ton of bricks when I went to go see the press screening of The Gift. Their marketing campaign for this movie was bonkers. Of course, the movie is kind of like a stalker thriller where Gordo, or Edgerton's character, stalks and terrorizes this poor couple. And when I went to the screening, I went with a friend, and we got to the theater. We walked in, we sat down, and you're sitting there, and there's the movie screen. People are filing into the theater, and there's a picture of Gordo, the character, up on the movie screen, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, a picture of me and my wife on a trip to Napa shows up on the screen, and the character Gordo says that it was a lovely day with you two, as if he was there. And then another picture of my wife and I popped up on the movie screen from Christmas time, and it was just really strange. Me and my friend kind of got a kick out of it. We took a picture of the movie screen and texted it to my wife, and she wasn't very happy that our personal photos were up there in front of everybody for anyone to see. But I thought it was funny, and then I started getting tweets from Gordo during and after the movie. He even tweeted like a picture of me and my little brother when we were basically toddlers. My younger brother was a baby. I was kind of a toddler, and in the picture, my brother's crawling, and I have kind of my hand resting on his back while I'm sitting up. And in the tweet, Gordo says that he sees that I've been holding people down for most of my life. So it was a fun little touch. And then a woman came up to me before the movie started and handed me an envelope and said that it was from a man in the lobby. A man in the lobby told her to give it to me. I opened it up, and there was like a little note from Gordo in there, and there was a little Starbucks gift card as well, which I very much appreciated. So that was a lot of fun. And then the next day, I went and did my interview with Mr. Edgerton. We had a great time. You're going to hear that here in a second. But he gave me a gift. When I sat down, he gave me this present that was it was like quite a sizable present. I wasn't expecting that. I didn't open it till I got home because I take the train into San Francisco. Took the train back to the East Bay where I live, and I opened it up, and there was a chef hat inside the gift that had my name on it, got printed on the chef hat. And the reason that's creepy is that I used to be a chef many years ago, or at least several years ago. And to find out this information, you'd have to stalk me online, which I'm sure somebody did. It wasn't Edgerton, but it was somebody from the marketing team who either went on my Facebook or, listened to one of these shows and figured out that I used to be a chef. So although it was all in good fun, I was telling my friends and my wife, like, hey, yeah, this is a joke, but they really did stalk me. They went onto my Facebook and looked up this information. But anyways, it was a great time. It was one of the most fun marketing campaigns I've ever seen for a movie so far. And Edgerton was great as well. You're about to hear this interview, and I want to say before we get into it that he did this great movie called Warrior a few years ago, which was about mixed martial arts, UFC, cage fighting stuff. and it's a great film. You guys should all go check it out. But basically, at the beginning of the interview, I mentioned that I'm an MMA fan because I am, and we recorded this right after the Conor McGregor fight, which was a really big fight for the UFC, and everyone was buzzing about it afterwards. So that's why, for a little bit in the interview, we're just talking about UFC. So apologies for that. We do get into the film later on. And guys, enjoy this conversation with Mr. Joel Edgerton. I have to start off with this because I'm actually a really huge mixed martial arts fan.
Oh, right, yeah. What did you think of the other night?
I was going to ask if you watched Conor.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It was one. You know what fight it reminded me of? The Anderson Silva fight against Charles Sonnen, when Charles Sonnen was schooling, Anderson Silva for 5 rounds, and then in the last 45 seconds, I think Anderson Silva did a triangle choke on him, and it really proves to you that just because a person's dominating a fight, that anything can happen.
You know, I was there.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah, it was here. It was here in Oakland.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was Oakland, California.
Yeah. They haven't come back. That was the last one that was in Oakland.
Wow. You know, I lived in Oakland for a while.
Is that right?
A couple of months, yeah. I've lived in Lubbock, Texas, Oakland, a few other places. I mean, I'm talking about when I'm not shooting a movie. I was here. My girlfriend at the time was going to Berkeley.
Oh, nice.
But, yeah, that fight was... I don't know. It was incredible. I actually thought that at the end that he wasn't really...
Mendes?
Yeah, I don't really think that he'd touch.
It's a little early. Yeah, it was a little early.
I just thought, considering what a lot of fighters go through before they finally call a fight.
Yeah.
It felt to me like they threw it a little bit early, and I don't think he was out. I think he was at least still protecting himself. He might have been crawling around. Don't, please don't hit me. Please don't hit me. But he was definitely protecting himself. I don't think the fight was over yet.
I agree, but I wanted to say Warrior actually makes me proud to be an MMA fan. I think it's a great representation. And it's such a young sport to have a movie that's not just, kind of a joke and like it doesn't represent the sport well. To have that come out so early is great.
It's interesting. Gavin O'Connor had made the I think it's the Smashing Machine, the documentary, and he's a big lover of film. And when Gavin makes a movie, he brings everybody that's involved in that world in to make sure that it lives and breathes authenticity. So as much as Tom and I weren't UFC fighters, we were put through our paces for 3 months.
You look great, man.
We had a great time.
Was it an omoplata that you got on Tom at the... Oh, my gosh.
I mean, and the funniest thing was I had guys like, you look at Anthony Johnson now, Rumble Johnson. That guy's a beast, and he's doing so well. I got to fight him and win in Warrior.
That's right.
The magic of the movies. But he, at the time, was 3 months out from the fight, and he's like, be careful with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, he's scared of me. Not because he thinks I'm a good fighter, just because he thinks I'm going to be clumsy and break his shoulder. Look, we had a great time. I'm very proud of that movie, and very few people saw it when it came out, because I think it was marketed as if it was something different. And people didn't really know Tom and I, and they didn't know what it was going to be. But the beauty is a good movie will find its way onto people's TV screens, their iPhones, whatever, and people are really seeing it and appreciating it.
It's a great story. I have to mention, I was looking at an interview you did about felony.
Oh, yeah.
A few years ago. You said, this is what you said. You said, there's something genuinely exposing about writing a movie and then seeing it play. I imagine being a writer-director is double that. Yeah. It's like sitting in a cinema and someone's projecting a nude photo of you.
Of yourself. Yeah.
Was it like that?
Well, no, look, I became so proud of this movie, and feel like we landed where we wanted to land. That, in the last few days as we were getting ready to finish this movie, as in like hand it over and not be able to touch it anymore, I would watch the movie and just mark down where are moments where I felt were dishonest or didn't ring true as an actor or as a writer or as a director. And anything that made me cringe or feel bad. And I was like, I think we've landed where we wanted to land with this movie. So if anything, it's been different to that. I mean, maybe it's like still like looking at a naked photo of yourself, but where you lit really well and you think you look really cool. And maybe, you're pretty proud of your body. So I feel really good about it. And I feel less nervous about, showing people this movie, because I feel like we've created what we wanted to create, which is a movie that is, it's a psychological thriller that's terrifying and yet has its social kind of resonance. It has its kind of comments in there that, to me, make it more than just a kind of bag of blood or body count, and it's not that. It's a suspenseful film where stuff happens, but it's not your typical kind of straight through mindless thriller.
I hope people know that and go see the movie, because I was genuinely surprised in many ways. But I think the way that I was most impressed with was that there is violence in the movie, but when it happens, it's monumentally important. It's not a throwaway kill or whatever.
No, it's very significant. And, a lot of this movie touches on themes of bullying and the roles we play in high school. And while we're not trying to make a educational tool about bullying, because it's a very dark movie with dark tones to it, it does touch on that subject. And, of course, and also the fact that people don't change. And one of the big acts of violence in this movie pertains to that. And I think it's a very interesting psychological thing. And, as an actor, I like to think that everything you do comes from a place of character. And so we created this sort of very heavily kind of dangerous plotted movie that is born out of these characters and this old bad history coming back to haunt characters. And I thought, as a writer, I was looking for a great idea that, makes a movie worth making, because it takes years. And when I was walking around one day and I had this thought, like, what if you made a movie about a guy who wasn't such a nice guy at school, and 25 years later, just innocently in a homeware store, someone taps him on the shoulder and was like, hey, excuse me, I remember you. Do you remember me? We went to school together. And you're like, oh, that's terrifying.
It was really terrifying. And the performances in this movie are crazy good. There's a kitchen scene between Jason and I'm sorry, Rebecca Hall. She's terrific, and that scene blew me away because it transcends genre picture there. It transcends genre in a lot of ways, but right there it was like, woo.
Yeah, no, look, that was one of the greatest days I've ever had as a person involved with movie making. I remember sitting there almost getting emotional, about the fact that I had the privileged position of having written this script that then was being elevated by these two wonderful actors. Rebecca is such an intelligent, amazing woman, an amazing actress. And really, what's funny is this movie's about the bad blood between two men and how that resolves itself. But the movie's really told through her eyes, as she's the center of the movie. And I needed someone just so supremely talented and trustworthy as that character. And then Jason, who is usually known for his comedy,
God,
it just felt like such an interesting choice to put him in a movie that is so gripping and more dramatic, because I knew he could do it. There was evidence in it, and also knowing that he borders on, as you'll see when you see the movie, it requires him to be a bit of a jerk as well. And he directed his own movie called Bad Words, and I was like, all right, I know he can do that.
He's always had that bit of aggression in him. I think that's great. I want to mention also the premise of this movie. What's cool about it as far as cinematically is that it forces people to kind of scan the frame at all times. People are very aware of what they're seeing at all times. You're on high alert. So when there are scares, and I think you showed great restraint with the scares. When they do come, it's we had the screening last night, and the theater exploded.
And
you literally see waves.
Excited by that, like we constructed these sort of few moments in the movie, two in particular, a few moments where we want the audience to be literally terrified or have that kind of shock. As I said to my partners in the movie, the producers, I wanted to deliver them a movie that, it was one foot firmly planted in that genre, that suspense, psychological thriller genre, and the other foot, allowed us to kind of subvert that genre as well, to make it as gripping in a dramatic sense and resonant in a social sense, and for there to be great acting in this movie, great scenes that meant something, rather than just a series of frightening moments, so that those scares are actually really born out of a terrifying place of psychology for these characters, living in this house, feeling like maybe they're not alone when they really sort of should be. And as an actor who, never really wants to be on the receiving end of being told I have to do some hollow scare as an actor, like I have to say, as a filmmaker, watching an entire audience scream in one moment, it feels good.
Well, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it very much.
Pleasure.
All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Joel Edgerton. I had a great time, as you could hear. He was one of the nicest people I've ever interviewed. That was really a great experience. The whole thing was a great experience, and it was for a really, really good movie. Guys, go see The Gift. Thank you to Dustin and Eli for joining the show. It's always great to have Dustin on, and Eli was such a pleasure to have on for the first time. You can find Dustin on Twitter at djancic. You can find me on Twitter at BJ_Boo. And please find Way Too Indie on Twitter at Way Too Indie. Like Way Too Indie on Facebook. Follow us on Spotify and Instagram and YouTube. And you can even subscribe to this very podcast on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. We'd very much appreciate that, and we'd also really appreciate if you could help out our sponsor, Mubi. You'd be helping us out as well. Just go to Mubi.com, that's mubi.com/Way2Indie. Get your free month. We'll be happy. Mubi will be happy. You'll be happy. I'm happy with today's show. I had a great time. See you guys next week.